Stephen P. here. Video is going to be about the thermostat nozzle. Thermostat nozzle. It's on the 5.7 vortec. The issue that I ran into is on this fastener here. You have the stud with a nut on top, and then there is another nut on the bottom. That's what the fastener is looking like without the other nut on it. The problem is you can't get a wrench onto this bottom nut in order to hold it still while you're trying to loosen the nut on the top. It's because the height of the nut is less than the wrench. The height of the depth of the wrench. So I even went out and bought a wrench that I thought was slim. This one is like a regular type of wrench. You can see it has the raised panel. So I went out and got a polished type wrench. I thought it would fit. I even took the other stud along, and it sure looked like it was going to work, but it didn't. So when I found that didn't work, I was thinking, what am I going to do to get this to hold this stud still, to take the top nut off. Right back. What am I going to do to take the top nut off? And so I remembered how you can use two nuts sometimes on a bolt. You take one and you tighten it down on the other. So I came up with the solution of putting an extra nut on top of the stud, and then I got a short bolt and tighten that down. So basically it ends up, the nut ends up locking on the threads and preventing the stud from moving. You know, it'd be no big deal if you could just turn this and, you know, take it out, but you can't, because there's wires connected here, and you can't go twisting all those wires all around and around and around. And in fact, this one connector broke off from a previous time that I had taken the nut off, and it ended up spinning the stud around, and when it got to the thermostat nozzle, it bent it, and so I bent it back. And you know how metal does, after you bend it back once or twice, it ends up breaking. So that's about the only solution I could come up with to loosen the nut without spinning the stud. I'm going to pause the video and I'll show a little mock-up of what I have going on here. Okay, so what we have going on is basically this. I have the stud, and then put a nut on the top of it, and then put a short bolt there on the top of the nut. Just put, you know, the nut halfway on, and then you can run the bolt in. So that provides enough resistance where you can turn the other nut against it. I haven't actually loosened that other nut yet, but that's what I'll be getting around to doing. Hope this helps somebody if maybe you got stuck on the fastener like I did. It pretty much brought the whole job to a halt. It's one of those things that can really make a project difficult, so maybe that'll help somebody out. Okay, so here's a quick little results portion of the video. So I had the breaker bar, used the breaker bar, and put it on the socket, and the wrench was able to turn the top nut and get it all loose. So just showing how that works there. Yeah, it's tight. Tight little spot there. So be careful. Bye-bye. Okay, so I just wanted to point out one more thing. You can see that says 14 millimeters. So the nut there on the top is 14 millimeter, and the part on the actual stud, that is a 13 millimeter. Just wanted to put that out there in case somebody's having trouble. I know I did. I used a 9/16 on it. It'll turn it. It's kind of loose, and then also a 1/2 inch is close to the 13 millimeter. So something that I kind of ran into a problem with. I was using a 1/2 inch socket when I took the other stud out. I mean, it'll fit because the nut is tapered, but it's actually metric here. So, just one last thing here. Just want to show what happened to that bolt that I used getting that nut, that top nut loose. When I was using this bolt to hold it on the stud, it actually put a dent in the end of it and pulled the threads down a little bit. It was running down against the top of the stud, and normal bolt. This is the end of a regular end of a bolt. So that quite a bit of force was on that. Yeah, and it of course it messed up the end of the bolt, and it also messed up the nut a little bit. So in hindsight, I was thinking maybe I should have got a little bit stronger grade of bolt and nut, but then again, I don't want to risk messing up the stud. So I guess it's better to go with the softer bolt. Gonna end up messing it up, but at least your original stud, won't get deformed through all of that. So that's my last little opinion there. Bye bye.